Hey guys, Joe here, and here you're watching me play a beautiful level I found on Mario Maker 2. But what I'm here to talk about is localization in video games, because sometimes it makes no sense. Here what a viewer and I were talking about were things like Resident Evil. Now, if you don't know, Resident Evil in Japan is Biohazard, but Biohazard was one of the Resident Evil games, one of the later ones in the series. Now, that in Japanese was called Biohazard Resident Evil, so it was the same title, just flipped backwards. Now, as unnecessary as the change was in the first place, as it makes a lot more sense to be called Biohazard than Resident Evil, why was it changed? Now, I'm not very sure, but it was said that the director of communications, Chris Kramer, said that it would be impossible to trademark Biohazard, so I guess they just changed it to Resident Evil. Later we go on to talk about stuff like Street Fighter. Now they kind of switched around the names in Street Fighter. Why did they do it? There was the names were not always changed. For some reason, Akuma is, changed to Akuma. It's actually Golki in the Japanese version, which makes sense because it has his brother's name as Golken. But yeah, I don't know. They just said, hey, Akuma sounds better, which it is cool, but it means demon in Japanese for those who don't know. Yeah, as for the changes that everyone knows, there's Vega being changed from Balrog. Balrog was originally the claw dude, so Vega in the English version. Vega was actually M. Bison in the English version. M. Bison was originally Balrog in the English. So English version Balrog was actually M. Bison. And why was it M. Bison? Because they based the character M. Bison off of Mike Tyson, hence why his name is M. Bison. It's Mike Bison. Now, why did they change these names? The only one that I could think of that it makes sense to change was M. Bison, and I guess because it was so similar to Mike Tyson as they made it out to be, that they didn't want any type of lawsuits or something. As for M. Bison and Vega, it makes no sense to me. It makes no sense, and they didn't change any other names. Ryu is still Ryu, Ken is Ken, Guile is Guile, so I don't know why they only decided to change the bosses' names around, but that's what they did. And yeah, it's really weird. I don't know why they did it. I'm not sure why they changed just the bosses' names, but they did, and it's, to me, a meaningless change, besides that Mike Bison won because, I guess they were afraid of that. And at least they didn't change. See, they didn't change a lot of the names, though, which they do in stuff like Animal Crossing. Now, Animal Crossing, there's a lot to talk about Animal Crossing. That would be like, we were talking about it in chat, just changing names completely. Like, if they changed Ryu to Tom, and it would be like Tom and Ken or something, because Animal Crossing does that sort of thing. Now, what would you think if Animal Crossing is changing Japanese names? I can't say Japanese names. A lot of the Animal Crossing villagers or islanders, whatever you play, they have what you would see as mostly Americanized names. Some of them are complete nonsense names, but actually some of them are accurate to the Japanese counterpart, but a lot of them, they kind of just changed for absolutely no reason. Now, I remember I play the Japanese version, right? So when I play it, I know them by their Japanese names, and my friends, family, whoever I play with knows them by their English names, and oh my god, allergies. So when they're on my island, they'll say they're talking to insert the English name here. Now, 90% of the time, I have no idea who they're talking about. They have to tell me. And why? There is no reason for it. There is no reason for them switching the names, they just do it. And the worst part is that some of the English names just totally fight with the Japanese names. Now, one of my favorite islanders that I have on the new Animal Crossing game is Tiffany. Now, that you're watching, I'm sure we have like a mostly English audience here, so who is Tiffany? In my version, it's an eagle. An eagle, I think it's Celia in the English version, but it's Tiffany in the Japanese version. Now, where does the problem come in? The problem comes in later on, where you see that another villager in the English version was named Tiffany. So, there isn't a problem with the name Tiffany. They just changed it for no reason. Yeah. So now there's a Tiffany in the English version and a Tiffany in the Japanese version that are both different. Now, why is the English version Tiffany changed to Tiffany? Now you would think maybe it's because its name is Bazure in Japanese. Now what is Bazure? Exactly. Bazure is just some Japanese name, so they're just gonna say, hey, let's change it to something, more American. And I say this because I've actually heard this before many times. They like to do this thing in the past. I guess as you see, they still do it today, but at the time, it was kind of considered as a cultural odor, they called it. Now, it's when things like Japanese characters are in the game and stuff like that, they want to get the Japanese out and keep it more American, so I guess it appeals better to American audiences, which is, when a lot of people tell me how one villager is, I'll see it and I'm like, wait, this villager is nothing like this in the Japanese version, like I hear the very famous one, Anka, the one, who is Nile in the Japanese version, like Nile River. She is so sweet. I love her so much on my island. She is so sweet. Now, I always hear that she has a snooty attitude. Now, not in the Japanese version. She's actually very sweet from, what I've talked and seen from her. And I played it quite a bit in the past. I played quite a bit of Animal Crossing. Not a super large amount of hours, but quite a bit. So, yeah, it's, a lot of things change for no reason, sure. But, yeah, like, I would say the only reason for big name changes and stuff like that are, just the Japanese, getting that out of there. But actually, now they are better about it, because now you can, like, if you came to my island, stuff like the Tanuki store, I can't remember what it's called. It's called that in Japanese, though. It's Tanuki store, Tanuki Shoten, or like, raccoon shop. But, yeah, I think I can't remember it right now, but, I'll look it up later. But you will see in Japanese letters, Tanuki Shoten at the top of my store. Now, just like if I went to the American version, it would say whatever the store is. So, yeah, I guess there's ways around it, but yeah, and nowadays it's hard because they've already done so much in the past that they can't really just take it back, because, the names have already been changed. It's already all been messed up from the past, so they can't really just go back and say, what, this character's this name now. No, it's done. Like, obviously there's more Japanese stuff everywhere nowadays. There's more of every culture around nowadays. It's not really like, they're not trying to get rid of that cultural odor anymore. They're kind of just flowing with stuff. But yeah, from years of it changing, they can't really just go back and change stuff. Why they still continue to do it, I don't know. Like I said, there are still villagers and stuff that do keep the same name. So, I mean, maybe they're newer. I don't know. I haven't played Animal Crossing for its entirety, but yeah, I'm sure it's not as crazy as it used to be. A big reason for the Animal Crossing thing is the cultural odor over the years. But say yeah, so they have their different reasons for localization and different things. As you guys know, and biggest meme in localization, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure does this more than anything I could think of, and it's changing the names to ridiculously different things to avoid lawsuits and stuff. But sometimes, in the case of like Animal Crossing, there's absolutely no point in changing names. They simply just did it. And now it's kind of damaged from over the years, and they just keep it up. So, well, I'm sure if you played Animal Crossing, I know you're out there playing it for like 500 plus hours, you've noticed that the talking, you can in fact understand some of what they're saying. Now, they've changed the Japanese one, because the Japanese one actually does, I do catch words, like they do actually speak some Japanese in there, like it's like Japanese but very sped up and very weirdly pitched, so like the same as the English version. I'm sure, you know, sometimes you catch words, so they are speaking. I thought I'd just go over what was going on in this stream here and, you know, talk about it a bit. But yeah, that's all I have to say on the matter. I hope this kind of informed some of you of what was going on, or, you know, I hope this gave you kind of a view of things in the Japanese games and kind of how weird it feels to me that some things are changed, such as, you know, the Resident Evil, the Street Fighter titles, the Street Fighter names, especially the Animal Crossing names. I have no explanation for you other than they just messed up in the past and just kept going with it because of that cultural odor. And, you know, maybe some names are harder to pronounce for Americans and other English users and stuff. So I hope you enjoyed listening to me talk about this stuff and the gameplay, and I will see you guys next time.
I don't know why I did that, but we're safe. Oh, man. Dude, really, I missed the shell jump at the end. Hey, Scott! Why was I missing the shell jump so much?
You did.
Thanks.
You did.